Mike and Dave are both 33. Same city, same income, same £100,000 in savings. But they're about to make two completely different financial decisions. Mike wants stability and a place that's his. Dave wants flexibility and doesn't want a mortgage deciding where he lives. So Mike buys. Dave rents. At first, one looks smarter. But 20 years later, the answer gets complicated. Because most people compare rent with the mortgage payment. That's the wrong comparison. Let's follow them. Mike buys a £400,000 house. He puts down £90,000 and spends another £10,000 on closing costs. His £100,000 savings is gone. He takes out a £310,000 mortgage at 7%. His principal and interest payment is about £2,062 a month. But that isn't the full cost. Add taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and his housing cost is closer to £2,900. Dave rents a similar house for £2,200. So Dave has about £700 extra every month. People say, Mike is building equity, Dave is throwing money away. Not exactly. Mike isn't investing £2,900 every month. Much of it goes toward interest, taxes, insurance, and repairs. A mortgage payment is not the same thing as an investment contribution. Now Dave makes a different move. He invests the £100,000 he didn't use for the down payment and closing costs. Then he invests the £700 monthly difference. Mike owns property. Dave owns investments. They're just buying different assets. 3 years pass. Mike has built equity, but the house also starts costing him. The water heater breaks. Insurance rises. Something always needs repairing. That's home ownership. The house can appreciate, but it can also age. Dave avoids those costs, but his rent keeps climbing. At 3% a year, £2,200 eventually becomes much more expensive. So both men face rising costs. Mike deals with ownership expenses. Dave deals with rent increases. Neither is free. Now consider the £100,000. Mike put it into the house. Dave invested it. That creates opportunity cost. Every pound has another possible use. If Mike puts £100,000 into property, that money can't also be earning returns in the stock market. That doesn't mean buying was wrong. It means the comparison has to include what Mike gave up. Mike benefits if the house appreciates. Dave benefits if investments perform well. The question is, which use of the money creates more value? And nobody knows that with certainty. That's why anyone claiming buying or renting is always better is oversimplifying the problem. At year 10, Mike's £400,000 house could be worth roughly £538,000 to £592,000 if it grows 3% to 4% annually. His mortgage balance has fallen to around £255,000, leaving around £283,000 to £337,000 in equity. But Dave has been investing for 10 years. His original £100,000 has been compounding, and he's been adding £700 every month. Assuming a 7% average market return, Dave's portfolio could grow to roughly £312,000. Suddenly, buying doesn't look like an automatic win. Dave has another advantage: liquidity. If Dave needs £20,000, he can sell investments. Mike can't sell £20,000 of his kitchen. He'd need to borrow or sell. That's why net worth and financial flexibility aren't the same thing. You can own a valuable house and still have limited access to cash. But buying has a major advantage too. Mike's mortgage payment is largely fixed. Dave's rent isn't. After 10 years of 3% annual increases, Dave's £2,200 rent could approach £2,956. Mike's principal and interest payment is still around £2,062. Taxes, insurance, and repairs may rise, but the core mortgage payment stays fixed, and eventually, the mortgage ends. Rent doesn't. Eventually, Mike could own his home outright while Dave is still paying rent. At year 20, Mike's house could be worth £722,000 to £876,000, leaving him with over £580,000 to £730,000 in equity as his mortgage falls below £145,000. Dave has had 20 years for his investments to compound. At a 7% average return, his portfolio could grow to over £730,000. So who won? There is no universal winner. But behavior matters. Dave's strategy only works if he actually invests the difference. Every month, through good markets, crashes, and distractions. If Dave spends it, much of his advantage disappears. Mike has another advantage. His mortgage payment is automatic. He builds equity whether he feels motivated or not. That forced saving can be powerful, but only if the house is affordable. If Mike stretches himself so far that he has no emergency fund, one major repair could turn the house into a financial burden. So, affordability matters more than ownership. Buying also reduces flexibility. If Mike gets a great job in another city, Dave can move. Mike has to sell the house or rent it out. Selling costs money, while renting it out creates extra work and risk. Mike paid for stability, Dave paid for flexibility. Neither is automatically better. It depends on what you value and how long you plan to stay. Sell after 2 or 3 years, and transaction costs can destroy the advantage. Stay 10 or 20 years, and buying becomes more attractive. Renting can make sense if you need flexibility, or buying would consume your savings. But there's one condition. You have to use the advantage. If you rent for 20 years and spend the difference, you've removed one of renting's biggest benefits. You're paying for flexibility without using it. So go back to Mike and Dave. They started with the same £100,000. Mike chose stability. Dave chose flexibility. Mike put his money into property. Dave put his money into investments. 20 years later, either one could be wealthier, but their wealth would look completely different. Mike could have a nearly paid-off home. Dave could have a large investment portfolio. Neither discovered a secret formula. They made different trades. Mike traded flexibility for stability. Dave traded ownership for liquidity. Renting isn't automatically throwing money away. Buying isn't automatically a great investment. A mortgage payment isn't all equity. And rent isn't the only money that disappears. The real cost of housing is what you pay, plus what that money could have become somewhere else. So don't ask which choice sounds more responsible. Ask a better question. Where will this decision put me 10 years from now? Because the biggest financial decision isn't whether you rent or buy. It's what happens to every pound after you make that choice.